I saw like your Tuesday, you just signed up to your Tuesdays, usually less than your Mondays. Just
How's everyone doing? We've got Calvin in the room. Calvin, who are you from? Look in the chat. We've got Sophia, Technology, Kenneth, good to see you guys. There we go, Carol, that's you. And we've got Brent as well. Welcome, guys, in the chat. Who you are. Love to know. We're going back to the spring of things to work. 2026. We started shortly. Not too long, then you can get back to work. But it's good to have you guys here. Could actually, if somebody could just put in the chat, you can hear me, that would be really useful. Oh, I'm on mute. Guys, welcome. Oh, Kenneth, Sophia Technologies, welcome, guys. In the chat, tell me where you're from. Brent, sorry. Welcome to the webinar. When your AI can hear me, can someone in the chat just say if you can hear me? Yes, you can. No, I'm going to guess that says LA or something. Am I right there? Anyway, I'm we're in England. From Florida. Sunny, warm England. Mike, welcome. Not a problem. What part of England are you from? You guys are from? You've got Canada. That's a big country. Whereabouts in Canada? Winnipeg, Canada. Now, excuse my ignorance. Do they speak French there? Is that like where they speak French, or is that somewhere else? That is speak French. Welcome. The room starts to fill up now. Yeah, we'll be starting shortly. I think that was a crazy time of. I really appreciate you guys coming on today. I know it's a Wednesday, halfway through the week. Some of you are probably on your lunch break right now, so I've just had my dinner. I'm here based in the UK. It's I just had form of curry. So big fans of curry here in the UK. I know it's not as big a thing in the States and Canada, but certainly here in the UK, there's one of the dishes. What is the format? I'm not sure if I'm draft. In the chat, if you like curry, tell me what type of curry you like. If you haven't already guessed, I'm trying to get everybody here. From Scotland. I am in country in Scotland. It's way up in north Scotland. There's lots of distilleries. I'm perfectly safe, you can say. We had a lot of snow here last week. Yeah, that time on the car because we've got people all. Yeah, I've given it plenty of time. Let me bring up my slides, and we're going to start here. So, what I'm going to present to you guys, and I'll start with a question more than anything else. Can you think of a rock star? Now, my company is actually called IT Rock Stars. There's a little story behind it. That's for another day. Think of a rock star, a name that you know, and when you mention that name to someone else, they know exactly who you're talking about. Can you think of a rock star Put it in the chat if you've got a favorite rock star. My one actually is Smashing Pumpkins' Billy Corgan. For some reason, for this slide, I chose a 17th century rock star. What does this have to do with your IT business? Well, that's what I'm going to get into. Mozart, he's on the screen, and you might be, you'd be wondering, what's Mozart got to do with your IT business? Well, he was the rock star of the 17th century. Jeff's put Eddie. I'm going to guess Eddie Van Halen. I'm going to guess. But Mozart, I mentioned his name. Everyone kind of knows who he was. He was like a child prodigy. He composed music. He played music. It's in the general language. The point of this webinar is to do the same for your IT business. So when someone mentions your company name or your name in the local marketplace, all those local business owners, everyone knows exactly who you are. They know exactly who you are. And because of that, it leads to more sales appointments, more opportunities to speak with businesses. That's what I'm going to show you in this webinar. We've got Ozzy Osbourne, vendor, cool. I love all of these, but Mozart, the example here, maybe a little bit boring compared to some of these other guys and the types of music they've got. So how do we do that? How do we become the Mozart of the local marketplace? Well, I'll start with a story here. When I started running my IT business, was an MSP back in 2013. No one, they really didn't know who I was, that was a big problem for me. And it was such a big problem that I actually switched. IT Rockstars used to be an MSP, and I went into marketing because I've always had a passion for marketing. It was SEO at the time, and I thought, oh, okay, I can just apply SEO to IT services, managed IT services. 8 years, fast forward 8 years, and it completely changed. I realized that was a stupid mistake. But a lot of the marketing tactics have changed over time, and it's taken me 8 years to actually figure out what marketing works in the MSP space. Now, you might have tried some of these things on the screen. I've tried them all: LinkedIn automation, cold email, cold calling, direct mail. Some of them work better than others, but a lot of them are getting more difficult, like LinkedIn automation. I could never get that working. Came across as spam. Cold emails, to me, from an MSP's perspective, you're supposed to be protecting your clients from spam. So cold emails doesn't really sit right with me. I don't know who would be in agreement with me on that one. There are certain MSPs that do cold email, but just for me, it just doesn't seem right with anything else. And it's becoming harder and harder. And then you got cold calling. There's a lot of resource behind that. So like having to actually train up staff or picking up your phone yourself, that's something that I hated doing. And that was like one of the reasons I thought I need to make the marketing work so that I don't actually have to pick up the phone or I don't have to build up a sales team. So we've got Sapina's asking, you're right about the cold calls are mostly filtered out by spam. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I remember back about 3 months ago on my iOS device, there's now like a call screening. So anyone that phones me, gets put through to call screening and their name pops up before I even answer the call. So these things are getting harder and harder. Now, I've got a question for you. And this is the thing that's taken me 8 years to figure out. And I asked this question of all the MSPs and IT companies that come and speak with me and I do business with. I'm like, how do you get your existing client base? How have you got that client base today? And usually 9 times out of 10, the way that they've got most of your clients, this is the answer that most have, is it's usually through referrals, word of mouth. It's through people they know in business, their business network, or it's through an existing customer that's referred them business. That's usually how most MSPs grow their business, is through those sort of referral sources, that word of mouth, and the people that you know. Yes, sure, you might get 1 or 2 leads that trickle in through, through the marketing, through SEO, for Google Ads. But for most, the majority, it's through people you know and relationships. And that's the thing that's taken me quite a while to understand, is that, and this is coming from a marketing person that does marketing for MSPs, it's not really about the leads. If you break down those referrals, it's more about the relationships. It's about the business relationships you have. So the question then becomes, is if you go to first principles thinking, like Elon Musk, you break down what all those referrals and that word of mouth and that business network is. It's relationships. It's who you know. So how can we take all of the amazing digital tools that we have and leverage them so that we can build more relationships to open up the door to those sales conversations and those opportunities, to get that word of mouth spreading, but also become that Mozart. How do we do that? Well, you're actually in it right now. We're doing it right now. It's a webinar. It is the best way to grow your IT business. Now, there's a few reasons for this. And before I even start going down this webinar route, some of you might have tried webinars before and you may have failed completely. I have done that many times. And we'll go into some of that. But there's a few reasons why webinars work so well for MSPs. The first one is obviously you get to build a relationship. I'm interacting with you guys. We're in the chat here. We're interacting. Just starting that relationship. And I think we've got 15 people in this webinar at the moment, which is great. So I've managed to attract in 15 IT businesses, and I'm building a relationship. But yeah, it's maybe a little bit one-sided, that relationship, but it's a start. It's how we start that conversation. The other cool thing is that you get to educate your prospects and the marketplace on what it is you actually do. Now, from an MSP, you guys have got quite a task because you've got AI, you've got cybersecurity and compliance, you've got the whole managed IT services and how to speed up your internet or your PC. There's just so many topics, but you can lead in the education piece for 20 or 30 minutes in a webinar with the topic that you love and what you're really good at. You can do that. And we'll get into the topics a little bit later here in this webinar. You also get to entertain. I'm probably doing a really bad job of this right now, but actually entertaining. Best way to entertain is through a story. I've told you a couple of stories about how when I run an MSP, I'll probably end with a story as well of one of our clients. And then you get to present your offer, what your offer is going to be. But some of you are probably lost right now. You're like, webinars? No, Scott, not me. I've tried them before. I couldn't get people to register. That's like one of the hardest things to figure out. And then once you've got them to register, like I think it was around about 50 people registered to this. And we have 15 people in the call. So that kind of sets the expectations for you. I usually see around about 25 to 30% attendance rate on these, okay? So there's the getting people to register, difficult, getting people to attend, even more difficult. And then it's like, what do you actually sell as an MSP in a webinar? Like, you can't go and try and sell a 36-month contract managed service agreement in a webinar to buy my IT services. That's not how it's going to work. So what do you sell? And then there's the fear of presenting. And like, I'm an introvert and I'm nervous doing this right now. And the first time I did a webinar, I was even more nervous. But a lot of people are put off just because of the fear of actually presenting. So we're going to kind of dive into basically the way around all these big issues that I've kind of put here in the screen. There are kind of four. So there's like the registrations and the attendance. We're going to cover them all in the next few minutes. And I'm not going to keep this long. I'm just going to go into a few stories with my clients here at IT Rockstars and how over the last 2 years of actually figuring this system out and actually eliminating all of these problems, how it's done. So the first thing that drives registrations is having an amazing topic. See the screen here is George from F1 Tech, Canadian-based MSP. We ran his webinar in March. You can see that on the screen here, March 2025. And the registration rate was shocking. We were paying 44 Canadian dollars per webinar registration. Now, to give you some scope here, like what's normal, I pay between 5 to 10 US dollars for a webinar registration usually. So paying $44 was just like, what the heck's going on? Why is this not working? And what we've learned, or what I've learned doing this with all my clients and doing these for my internal use on IT Rockstars as well, is that you have to have a killer topic. George's topic was cybersecurity. Now, we all love to speak about cybersecurity because we know where that's where the real revenue is. The issue we've got with the marketplace is they want to hear about a hot topic. They're going to register onto a webinar if it's a hot topic, if it's a trending news item, if it's something in the news, something like AI just now that's very hot right now. And I've got the Copilot logo here. And that's what we learned doing these. I ran webinars since George, and the registrations dropped and the attendance when we started running Copilot and AI webinars, purely because it's in business owners' mind. It's stuff that they want to hear about. So it's really important that you get your topic correct for your webinar. And it doesn't necessarily mean you don't have to stop speaking about cybersecurity or managed IT services. It just means you need to wrap it up in a way, and you need to present it in a way in the ad and the landing page and the presentation, and where the hot topic relates to that. So giving an example of this, we do, I release to our members at IT Rockstars every month. It's like a webinar in a box, basically. So it's the presentation, it's the topic, the trending topic, it's the landing page, it's the ads, all of that stuff. So the one that we did back in November was all about the AWS outage and how that went down and how businesses can be prepared for it. So you really need to have that trending topic. And we have there's a GPT in the membership where you can basically go type in what you want to sell in your webinar, and it'll figure out what topics to actually choose as custom GPT. So that's the first one. And because you get a hot topic, you get better attendance as well on this. The second thing, this is probably something that you're experiencing right now. When you post out onto social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all those social media platforms, it's really hard to get engagement on them, on topics around cybersecurity and managed IT services. It's really difficult. The engagement sucks. And the reason for that is because you really need to pay to play. All of these platforms now want you to basically pay money if you want to promote or boost something for your business. That's just how it works. If I go back 6 years ago, I could post out a video on LinkedIn and it would get 100, 200 views easily, and I'd get people back to my website. It just doesn't work like that now. So you need to pay to play. Now, this is the webinar I did back in December, and you can see here on the screen, and this was for an internal one, so this isn't a customer one. We got 76 leads. You can see that here. And they cost around about $4.50 per lead. So it's £3.35 for the UK audience. So, and yeah, the spend for that was like £250, so about $300 or something like that. So it doesn't need to be a massive amount of money, but you do need to pay to play. And I've got here up on the screen, Meta is better. And that is because when I start speaking to prospects and clients about webinars, and I tell them, do this on the Meta platform, run your ads on the Meta platform. They go, Scott, what the heck are you talking about? I was going to swear there, but it's like, what are you talking about? I don't run ads on Facebook and Instagram for my IT business. I want to be speaking with business owners. I don't want to be speaking with grandmas and granddads and aunties and aunts. Facebook, are you nuts? And all I will say is, all the guys that are in the call right now, you saw my ad on Facebook. And I'm targeting a very specific type of business owner, an MSP owner, okay? You saw my ad on Facebook. Meta has the best targeting out of all the platforms, better than Google. And the reason for that is because it has machine learning in the background. So like on LinkedIn, you can basically target on job title and the companies they work for, how big the company and stuff like that is. But you'll pay like 4 or 5 times the cost that you will in Meta. And in the background on Meta, it's got a machine learning algorithm. So you put your ad up and your registration page up, and it works out basically who's most likely to click your ad. And then when it's got traffic to your ad, clicking your ad, it'll then work out who's most likely to actually enter their details on your registration page. So if you have the conversion tracking set up correctly, over time, the cost per lead drops from that $44 that we had for George all the way down to the numbers that you're seeing here on the screen. So it works tremendously well. It doesn't take a huge budget. And the cool thing for you guys, I know for a fact, hardly any of your competitors are taking this opportunity right now. Back in the olden days of Facebook ads, you had to target by interests and behaviors, and it just didn't work. It works tremendously now. So a little bit of ad budget to get your webinar out there, get the people to actually register onto it is important. So if you combine that with a hot topic and a bit of ad spend, you're going to have, as you can see here on the screen, 76 people, no problem, with that type of budget. So what do you offer in the webinar? Like what, you do your presentation, you do all that cool stuff. What do you actually offer? Well, there's a few things you can offer as an IT service provider. These are the ones that I would suggest. It's a bit of a Trojan horse. And really all this is to do It's to try and continue the conversation. So you've got a topic you're talking about in the webinar, and you want to take it off the webinar. You want to get that sales appointment in the diary. That's the whole point of the webinar for you guys and girls, is to get that next sales appointment. So it's the start of the relationship. We'll go back to building those relationships. Number one, a cybersecurity gap analysis. I love these ones because I've been through one myself with a client, and it basically when you go do a gap analysis, you get this big list of work. So they might already have a current IT provider, but all you have to kind of frame it as is, yeah, that's cool that the IT provider is doing that, but they only know what they know. So an external set of eyes that does a gap analysis, you get this nice list that you can, it's basically a quote. That's what it turns into. It's like, you need to do this, this, and this to secure your business. Second thing, hot topic, an AI maturity report. This is you asking a set of questions, and we got all the questions in our school group at IT Rockstars under the Copilot Revenue Roadmap. Do you have Copilot licenses? That's where I would start this. Are you using Copilot? Where does AI show up in your business? Do you have things like when you save a Word or Excel document, do you have sensitivity labels? So when you go to save it, it's asking you if it's confidential or if it's public or what, because those types of things need to be put in place if you're going to be using Copilot, and your staff, your users are generating prompt responses, and they need to know if that's confidential material that they can copy and paste into their email or not. So having that in place, those questions, AI maturity report, a big one. Then you've got a network audit. This is like the old school, I don't know what the tools are now, Ovic or something like that, for looking at the network, speeding up the systems. But you've got so many different options, but it's that foot in the door, that Trojan horse that's going to lead to maybe a small project piece that'll turn into eventually the managed IT services contract. For me personally, if I was doing this, it would be number two. Now, you guys in the chat, tell me like what you would do as your Trojan horse offer. What is a small one-off project that you're going to do that you're going to be able to prove yourself, and they're going to start thinking, maybe we should be using you guys as opposed to a current MSP. Okay. So the third thing, the fear of presenting. I'll tell you a story here. Okay. This is Steve that you can see in the screen. I've been doing his marketing for a little while. He's got an IT company based down in Wiley in Texas. And we've been doing like the Google ads, doing his SEO, all that good stuff. And this is like going back a little while now. And I said, Steve, we should really try, excuse me, webinars. And he told me a story when we first started working with him, that he joined the local chamber of commerce, but he was really nervous, like having to stand up, hands were trembling, and just had to say, 10, 20 seconds about his business. So when I went to him and I asked him, would you be open to doing a webinar? He wasn't too happy about that, but we flipped the script on him. Okay. So as opposed to Steve having to present and then attempt to sell a Trojan horse offer in the webinar, we flipped the script. I took him on as the guest expert, and all he had to do was tell a story. So the story he told was about the pharmaceutical client, and their local server crashed. All the patient data was on it. So he basically just told the story about the really big problem that client had, how he fixed the problem, what the solution was, and then what the lesson on that problem is. Obviously, making sure that you've got the right backups in place and you're actually testing the restores. So he told the story. Once the webinar was over, just me and him on a Teams call, he had a really big smile on his face because he knew that it wasn't really that difficult. All he had to do was tell a story and relate it back to the audience. And he knew that he challenged himself. So in Steve's case, if you are like nervous about presenting, got a whole book of tips on how to present a webinar. Okay, so that's the three main things. That's like what I want to cover with you guys. If you are interested in what I have to offer, this is the offer piece. So being able to actually offer, your Trojan horse. This is my Trojan horse. I call it the MSP Power Audience. You can get it at school.com/MSP. You'll get the ads the landing pages, all the reminders, all that cool stuff. And it'll transform the way that you do business. Now, one of the things that I haven't mentioned with this system is like, we've got, there was 50 people that registered. There was over 50 people that registered to this webinar, 15 on the call, okay? One of the things that I haven't mentioned is all these contacts are opting in. They're going onto my CRM. I can nurture them over time. And that's what I call the power audience system. Whilst there might be local business owners that are potentially not ready to buy right now, you can be nurturing them over time with email newsletters, that type of stuff. And they're going to be open to hearing from you. So over time, if you do this consistently, I generate around about 200 leads per month doing this. So over the course of a year, I've got 2,400 contacts in my database. And because of that, this goes back to Mozart, everybody on that list knows exactly who I am because I'm posting out on a regular basis on my emails and things like that. You can do this in your IT business. It's fairly straightforward. You can start today, school.com/MSP. I have a 60% discount on the annual option. So it's $699 a year. And I'll quickly show you what's included. So I'll show you how it's delivered. School.com, if you don't know about it, is like the hottest platform at the moment. This is our community at the moment, 159 users in it. You've got a timeline where you can ask questions. But under here, you've got the classroom. So the core functions of our system here for the power audience is the actual MSP audience itself. There's the 5 leads in 10 days challenge that you get access to, and the monthly webinar in a box where you basically get the hottest topics, the PowerPoints, the ads, the landing pages, all of that good marketing stuff. It's all there for you. And as I mentioned, there's custom GPTs in there as well. If you go with the annual option, you get access to the full back catalog. So you get 60% off the monthly price, but you get access to the Copilot revenue roadmap, which will take you from the AI webinar all the way to what the project work looks like. How do you actually generate money off of the revenue roadmap? MSP SEO Masterclass. These are basic things that you need to have in place on your website. There's also the AI SEO in a weekend. So I'm not going to go into all of it, but you get all of this that's in here for that price. I'm going to leave you with another little story. I don't want to keep you guys too long. And that is my own sort of change in circumstance. And this goes back to the fear of presenting. When I was technical in nature, this is going back to 2011. I was a senior systems engineer. I thought I was a hot shot when it came to anything to do with a server, IT services, anything like that. But I was getting sent to London for big IT projects at the time. But I came back after that, and I was in the office. I was working for a company called Dynamic Edge up in Aberdeen in Scotland. And I was looking around the room and I'm like, you know what? I'm looking at these older guys. The service delivery manager, he's like 10 years older than me. And he's like, you can only go so far with this stuff, like from a technical nature. And that's when I realized I had to go into the sales. But like coming out of the server room, looking away from the event bureau log, and like having to put on a suit jacket and go to BNI meetings, it was a real challenge for me. But what I realized, and you probably already know this yourself if you've got as many gray hairs as me, if you want to change your business and change the wealth of what you have in your life, it all starts with changing yourself. And this is one of the best ways to do that is through webinars. So if you're thinking going into 2026, how can I really transform how I'm doing things with my marketing and my IT sales process? This is how you do it. It will take you out your comfort zone. You are going to have to go and speak to 30 business owners on a monthly basis in a call like this. But the cool thing with it, it's only like 30 minutes of your time because we've got everything here in the school group for you. So if you're time constraints and you want to get started, the URL is on the screen. I'm going to take some questions now, guys. So if you've got any questions, please just put them in the chat. We've got Sapina Technologies. Referrals is still the most effective. This can grow a niche service provision. I totally agree with that. Referrals are the most effective, and you can get them through your webinars. As I mentioned, if you grow this contact database, if you have a formalized referral process, and have that in your email signatures, and have a landing page for those referrals, it works wonders. I've heard of some crazy referral systems out there that MSPs have. I met an MSP that works in Florida. They gave away a Tesla as part of the referral process. I don't think maybe it has to be as crazy as that. Start maybe somewhere with like a local charity, non-profit, and just like give them like if someone refers your business, is on like a commission that goes to that non-profit, and make that like a PR, a press release. So that benefits the new client, it benefits the non-profit, it benefits you because the goodwill, and it benefits the person that gave you that referral because they get a mention in there as well. So it's a win for 4 people. That's what I would do when it came to referrals. So we've got Mark's typing a question and Sapina's typing a question. Let's see what we got to say here. Okay, Sapina's saying, while referral is not enough, the killer is ensuring service delivery is uncompromised and the ability to carry the client along on projects helped me close deals in my previous place of work. Yeah, I would agree with that. You do a good job, then you ask for the referrals. That's how I do it. There's definitely, there's method in the madness there. Well, it's not madness at all. It's common sense, isn't it? Do a good job, and you're gonna get the referrals. There's a fact here with doing this. Okay, we've got Mark. Do you find there is a sweet spot for regular comms to the nurturing the contacts that get engagement too little? You're always going to get unsubscribes. So as I say, I grew about 200 contacts a month with this system. You get unsubscribes. It's just part of business. But if you're adding more than you're losing, it's a win. It's just how it works. There's going to be churn there. When it comes to the sweet spot for regular comms, I would suggest it's as much as your capacity can take. Okay, so how much time in the day do you have, or in the week? Sorry. So sending out a weekly newsletter is ideal. If you can get away with 2 or 3 emails a week, that's even better. But you want to mix it up. So, on a Monday, I would potentially be mentioning to my existing list, hey, I'm doing a webinar, guys. On a Friday, I'd probably be having something funny or an IT tip, something that would be really useful. And then on a Saturday or Sunday, if you've got like a YouTube or something like that, you want to maybe point people to the direction of like a really useful piece of content that's going to help them. Hopefully that answers your question. I wouldn't worry too much about unsubscribes. That means as long as you're not going send out an email to 1,000 people and then 100 of them are unsubscribing, you're probably going to find the unsubscribe is going to be around about 2 or 3 for 1,000 every time you send out an email. Just normal. Okay, we've got Safina here saying, unfortunately, loads in the MSP in the UK do not see it that way. Yeah, well, I'm going to guess that's in regards to the email newsletters, but I could be wrong. What's that based on, Safina? Is that, do you know loads of MSPs? And how do you know that information, or is that just an assumption? So I challenge you in that one. Who else we got in the room here? We've got Jeff, Calvin, Carson, Mark, A. Samuel, Jim, Paul. Are you after watching this, after seeing this question? Are you guys? Do you think you would do a webinar? Okay, Calvin's asking, what is the best time and day of the week to get the best turnout? Well, we are Wednesday lunchtime or Tuesday lunchtime. The main reason I suggest that is because it gives you the rest of the week to follow up. If you do it on Monday, people are usually really busy on the Monday, getting back into the way of things. Everyone's got that Monday feeling. And if you do it on Friday, people are out of the office by lunchtime quite often in this new hybrid world that we're in. So Tuesday or Wednesday lunchtime. And the reason lunchtime is because morning, that's when most people get most of their work done. And then you've got this sort of afternoon lull after lunch. So 12:30, Tuesday or Wednesday is the best time to do these. And as I say, it gives you time after the webinar to actually follow up with all of those people that attended, but also the ones that didn't attend. And I suggest when you are following up, is you actually follow up with a phone call. Emails will only go so far. Okay, so Samuel, is our plans for 2026? Well, you've got two options here, Samuel, for this. So you can, if you're planning to do webinars, you can learn every mistake there is, like I have done over the last 2 years, or you can shortcut your success. So that's getting the people to register, getting the people to attend, coming up with a killer topic, making sure the presentation is structured in a way that's actually going to get people to take action. That's all about breaking belief systems. So I've actually done that in this webinar. And then having your Trojan horse offer, and then actually how you follow up with them. All of those things, it's taken me 2 years to actually figure that out for MSPs. So you can shortcut your success. URL is on the screen. Yeah, Paul. Well, okay. Here's the action point then. If you guys are up for doing this, like, when are you going to do your first webinar? I would suggest go into Microsoft Teams right now, and in the calendar, there's an option under New Meeting. There's a drop down, New Webinar. Okay, go and put New Webinar as a placeholder. Doesn't have to be live, but do a New Webinar and do it for 4 weeks from today. That's going to give you plenty of time to digest what's in the school group and go through this challenge that we've got here. Five leads in 10 days of doing this. Okay, so go for it. Okay, Mark's saying, yes, we've been promising ourselves for years. We chop up humbly, very good cybersecurity talk for clients into chunks and offer them out as strangers. So some useful encouragement that this still means is driving engagement. It's the best way. I mean, the other thing with this, like why I'm leaning into webinars, Mark, is because of AI. And I'm not talking about because it's a hot topic. I'm talking about because there's so much stuff in the timeline to do AI and AI generated stuff. It's more about building that human connection. Now, people are going to look for that more because AI, it's going to be like a big pendulum. Everyone's going to go to AI, but then they want that human, just like when we came out of lockdown, they want that human connection. Subpoena, I have no interface clients or other MSP field work. Our majority are more interested in just getting the job done, irrespective of quality. Okay. So we're getting to service deliveries here. Cool. Hey, Samuel, killer topic is where I'm stuck. Well, Samuel, I'll tell you about a killer topic. In the school group, under MSP Webinar in a Box, I have 2 custom GPTs. And why are they not here? Let me see. They should be here. Here's the master prompt, but there are custom GPTs. I know where they are. Hold on. They're in here. So we've got a custom GPT specifically for MSPs on how to create a killer topic. And what this GPT will do is it will structure your webinar landing page, the topic, the presentation. So there's actually 2 in there. Okay, Calvin is asking, what is the length of time between webinars when you're up and running to full efficiency? I've been doing this, Calvin, for 2 years now. So internally for me, I'm doing this. I set a New Year's resolution to do this once a week. There's a peer that's doing it twice a week. But I would suggest when you're starting out that you do it once a quarter to start with, just to get into the flow of things. Once you start seeing that success, you probably go down to a monthly. And then if hopefully you will be doing this in 2 years' time, and you're doing this on a weekly basis. But I would suggest either quarterly or monthly to start, because you don't want to overload yourself with work more than anything else. But the cool thing with what we've got here is a webinar in a box. So a lot of the stuff's built for you. It's wireframed for you. We change the topic up every month, and it's always a hot topic. So as I mentioned, like November's one was all about the AWS outage, but there's always that trending topic. So we come up with a lot of that for you. And it's just how you can we package it, and then it's how you in the webinar relate that back to what your core service or what your Trojan horse is. So hopefully that answers your questions. Monthly sounds perfect. Yeah, Paul, monthly's cool. And as I say, if you've got resource internally for this, posting out, managing the ads and stuff like that, it is literally half an hour of your time. You might want to do a few rehearsals, but once it's in place, I'm doing this on a Wednesday night, and for me, it's straightforward. It's almost like automatic. So I'm going to be wrapping up now, guys. If anyone's got any other questions, happy to answer them. But I am going to be wrapping things up now because I don't want to keep you. I know you're all busy, and you've got to be growing your business, not listening to me talk. All right, guys. I'll see you in the school group. Okay, so hopefully see you there. And yeah, one thing I forgot to mention is we do a weekly group call on there. So that's where I hold your hand all the way through this process. Take it easy. I'm gonna cut it there.